one at a time, bring them up, put them on our agenda, and have a presentation. I think these are great, so far what I've seen, great community policing measures and doing wonders in the city of Los Angeles. Speaking of that, in my relationships across the street, across First Street, I had a very good meeting with Ron Galperin, another with Ron Galperin is the controller, and I want to point out that between Ron and the city attorney Mike Feuer, I think it's really nice to see people who are focused on not running for mayor in 4 or 8 years at their jobs. And I've had, these folks are real sincere in what they're doing and working with us and building bridges. I know there's a bridge that goes across, what is that? Is that Main Street?
Yes,
City Hall East. A bridge that's going across First Street as well. And so I look forward to that, and we're cultivating those relationships. My meeting with Councilman Englander had to do with the on-body cameras, where they're talking to different prospective purveyors to the city of those on-body cameras. And also something of which was of real interest to me is I had quite a meeting with Father John Backus from the Greek Orthodox Church in Pico in Normandy, and learned a lot about community policing from his perspective, and it was very, very helpful. So those are my comments for today as our federal government continues to shut down and our Dodgers continue to rock. See what happens when you give $250,000 to LAPD? Everything just goes great. So anybody else who wants to take notice of that? Okay, let's move on.
Okay, we have one public comment card. We have Tut Hayes.
Our concern is technology. The Board of Education's entered into it as a disaster. Never thought out, never clearly understood. Perhaps it's the same situation with the cameras and recorders on officers. Very expensive. Hasn't been thought out. The first question we ask is, who gets to turn it on and how do you turn it off? The downloading is, and you can't always accept what the Times has to say, but the downloading of these instruments, incredible amount of money every time you do it. But the question we have is, has it been thought out? Can we get an idea in the press or any other way to communicate to us just what's out there and how it's handled, how it's manipulated? Can it be manipulated? In other words, if something bad happens, can the officer change all that with a flip of a switch? So I don't think it's been thought out. I don't know how the union thinks about it, but I would suspect they would not think it's going to be all that helpful when it comes to a contest between a suspect and an officer. Because I've been through this situation where I had the evidence, and the agency, police agency, had the evidence also. But the evidence disappeared. Nothing I had to do with it, but it did protect the agency. So we would like to get some communication about what's out there. Let us examine it, mentally, of course, not physically, and see whether or not this is a good idea or just a waste of money to consume some technology.
Item number 2 on the agenda is the report of the Chief of Police, Assistant Chief Pasinger.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Commission. For Chief Beck, I'd again like to comment first on our crime reduction efforts. Year to date, we're still looking at a very positive trajectory for crime. Homicides year to date is negative 8.7%, and in real numbers, what that means is 19 fewer people this year have lost their lives compared to last. Sexual assaults, a nearly 30% reduction at 29.7. Robberies, a 12.4% reduction, and aggravated assaults, a 9.5% reduction, for a total for a total violent crime reduction of 11.8%. In the property crime category, burglaries are down 3.1%, motor vehicle thefts are down 5%, thefts from vehicles 1.6% reduction, and also personal thefts down 4.4% for a total property crime reduction tally of 3.4%. That brings the total for Part 1 crime reduction year to date this year compared to last is 5%. And again, what that means is a nearly 2,300 fewer victims this year compared to last. For the individual Bureau Part 1 crime reductions, Central Bureau has tallied a negative 6.8%, South Bureau at 5.3%, Valley at 2%, and West Bureau at 7%. Likewise, in the gang-related crime reduction, some excellent postings by Bureau. Central Bureau has seen a 27% reduction, South Bureau a 16.2% reduction. The Valley chimes in at a negative 77.6%, and West Bureau is down 17.4% for a total gang crime reduction tally of 17.7% for year to date.
Chief, since you're one of my favorite people in the world, but you happen to be sitting in the hot seat there, would you mind if I throw you a
curveball?
No, fastball.
I prefer curves.
Curve? Okay, here it comes. Are you ready? On property crime.
Yes.
Okay. I hear the overall number, and then I read and hear in specific areas that property crime is going up dramatically right now in the last month or so. I keep hearing it over and over and over again. Now I know the numbers are right, but tell me how when you see changes in the balance, how do you swing into action?
For the most part, as it relates to property crime, different from violent crime.
Yes.
Property crime, for the most part, particularly as it relates to thefts from vehicles, motor thefts, those kinds of crimes really are the types that we heavily depend upon community involvement. Particularly for theft from vehicles, we see people, they leave their iPads on the front seat. They leave their iPhones in places in the cars that are visible, that are conspicuous. Many people leave their cars running, leave their doors unlocked. We had a very unfortunate homicide. I believe it was last week in the Valley where an 80-year-old resident lost his life. And my belief is, based upon the initial investigative facts, is that he left his front door unlocked. And so for the property crime picture, most of that has to do with neglect on the part of the victims for leaving property in conspicuous places. One of our principal strategies for the police department is our Lock It, Hide It, Keep It campaign. As you know, we use banners, we use billboards. Some enterprising 3+1 in Hollywood actually cajoled or coerced the Goodyear blimp to flash the Lock It, Hide It, Keep It campaign on the Goodyear blimp. I've seen postings at bus stops and at bus stations, all designed to educate the community in very real and tangible ways, their responsibility to the extent that we can engage them.
What about,
to be more responsible.
Belinda told me at Expo Center that they had seven break-ins where they haven't had break-ins in a real long time. So is this about doubling down an educational outreach to the community
that is our
in certain areas?
That is our primary tool. And not only by voice, as you know,
Yeah.
The department has engaged in a very, very robust campaign by using the social media, whether it be YouTube or Twitter or any of the other social media websites to really to process that message, whether it be that, some of our traditional neighborhood watch meetings, also through high schools and middle schools, any way we can in order to help educate the public about their responsibility to control crime in their neighborhoods.
So I'll give you a double on that fastball.
I'm looking at a triple. Yes, ma'am.
So I sat in on a CompStat briefing, and the CompStat is the police departments' analytics around where crimes are being committed and how resources would be deployed in order to address particular spikes,
Clusters of crime.
And for my fellow commissioners, if you haven't sat in on one of those yet, it's worthwhile, because what does happen is, I'll use this language, but almost in the sense of a war campaign. There are certain patterns that develop in certain areas, and the department redeploys and deploys staff, officers, in order to address these, and then the individual commanders, captains who are responsible for those particular neighborhoods or police stations actually have to talk about their tactics, their strategies, and then there's a lot of best practices shared. I sat in, and Chief Jacobs was very helpful to me while there, because there's a lot of acronyms. It's like when I worked at GE, there's all kinds of acronyms. I don't know what 90% of them mean.
What's GE mean?
What does GE mean? Gosh. No, it means... So anyway, what happens is this really nice officer was sitting next to me, and as I would lean over and say, what does that mean? He would translate for me. But it really is, I think, a key to us understanding modern-day tactical policing and how they work really hard, also calling in the resources of the community organizations in order to report crime, notice crime, and lock it, hide it, keep it campaign. So for me, it was an excellent 3 hours spent learning all of that.
And in addition, as the commissioner was mentioning, it's not only the traditional policing methods that we have engaged in over the past several decades. We use various layers, the enforcement piece, the community education piece, and also the social media piece. All of them we leverage as much as we can, to the degree that we can, to limit the incidences of crime. When I was first appointed, just last point on crime, when I was first appointed a chief officer in 2002, as my memory serves correct, we had somewhere in the neighborhood of nearly 200,000 Part 1 crimes. We ended last year, the LAPD in cooperation, working with the community, with about 106,000 Part 1 crimes. And so, to the question of whether or not we still have the ability to lessen the impact of crime, there's still unfinished business, and the degree to which then we can engage with and work in concert in collaboration with the community, I think we still have a lot of success ahead of us.
Good, thank you.
You mentioned also, Mr. President, the reserves, and just a very quick mention of our staffing numbers. Sworn personnel on the payroll, and includes recruits in the academy, plus the 86 municipal officers assigned to Security Services Division. We come in at 9,924. Our Level 1 reserve population is at 277. Level 2 reserve police officers are at 22. Level 3 reserve officers at 135. Specialist volunteers at 392. Chaplain counselors at 44. Civilian personnel at 2,813. And we are currently carrying 534 vacancies. The population of cadets at this point is 4,010 who are active. I'd also just like to make this final point about the cadets. This coming Saturday, and by the way, the commissioners are more than welcome to attend. We're hosting all LAPD command and staff officers at a breakfast designed for them to meet officially for the first time their brand new cadets. We have just over 500 cadets in this current academy, and they're scheduled to graduate on November 17th, Sunday, November 17th at the Galen Center. All of you obviously are welcome, and you're welcome this Saturday as well to see this current class of cadets. You're
going to send us the info on it?
You're already receiving it. Yes.
I missed that pitch. Okay.
That is my report, Mr. President.
We have one public comment card. Mr. Tut Hayes.
pardon me, but I'm going to get there. I was once confined in the Sheriff's Department jail, and once I was released, Sherman Block said, "Don't bring him into my jails unless you have a smoking gun and a body." Why do you say that? Well, because when I was there, an election was taking place, and the Administrative Code of the State of California says voting. The facility administration of type 1, 2, or 3 facilities shall develop written policies and procedures whereby the county registrar of voters allows qualified voters to vote in local, state, federal elections pursuant to the election code. Ex-felons can vote. If they're not on parole, they can vote because parole is actually confined. And so I raised a bit of stink in the jails because they wouldn't let anybody vote. They wouldn't give us the election materials about the candidates, the ballot measures, or anything. Block was very upset about that because they don't let people vote while they're confined in jail or in jail. So does LAPD do that? Do they keep people from voting? The Voting Rights Act was a very severe blow when it came to the Supreme Court making a decision negative about voting in this country. But this is the law by the state of California, Section 1071, 15, Volume 15. And I would like to know whether or not they're going to institute a policy to allow people to vote in the jails. I think you all believe that's a civic responsibility, one you would like to enhance and support in getting it done. So I'll be checking with someone who can probably inform me as to whether or not it's going to be done. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is the report of the Executive Director, Mr. Tifeng.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the Commission. Two very brief items. First, certainly I'll work with the Department, Mr. President, to schedule the 3 items that you requested presentations on relative to the CATEP Program, Reserve Program, and the Metropolitan Division Canines. And also, next week we will have a verbal presentation and update from the Department on the status of the acquisition and field testing program of the on-body cameras. And that concludes my report.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Number 4 on the agenda is the report of the Inspector General, Mr. Bustamante.
Thank you, Mr. President. Commissioners, I've often spoke about my office's outreach efforts with the community. I want to let the Commission know that in addition to these efforts, we often meet, advise, and teach other oversight entities across the country. Most recently, members of my staff were providing training to the members of NACOL, which is the National Association of Civilian Oversight for Law Enforcement, on use of force investigations and audits. And in the last couple of weeks, we've also met with our federal counterparts on reviewing our insights and strategies on oversights and sharing best practices. And that's just the informational update for the Commission, and I have nothing further.
Okay. Item number 5 consists of information items and filed items relative to noise variances and special event permits submitted for the period ending October 4th, 2013. Item number 6 is presentations. Do we have any presentations?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the Commission, we have a presentation today for our Commission Employee of the Month, and that employee is Police Officer 2 Enrique Hernandez. Enrique, would you please come forward and be duly embarrassed and face the audience? Come up here and stand. Don't hide behind the podium. Step out here. Enrique has a very unique job within the Los Angeles Police Department. He is a member of Commission Investigation Division's Noise Enforcement Team. We have 4 police officers assigned to noise enforcement throughout the city of Los Angeles. They are responsible for the enforcement of chronic noise complaints that go beyond the skill and abilities of the patrol officers who respond to those routine calls for service. However, one of their major primary jobs is the issuance and completion of the investigation of the noise variance permits. You see every week on the agenda of noise variances. We issue close to 300 of those a year, and they are to allow nighttime construction and weekend construction. And that is one of Enrique's primary jobs. He's been with the LAPD for 19 years. He's been a member of the noise enforcement team for 7 years. And he is considered a subject matter expert on noise, the use of the decibel meter within the city of Los Angeles, and one of our go-to persons along with his colleagues in the noise enforcement team related to chronic noise issues in the city. He could tell you many stories of the noise complaints that he has to go to that really fall outside of the LA City ordinances, but we still have to investigate. One of the major projects that Enrique has been involved in for a number of years is the metro construction projects with the light rail systems that have occurred throughout the city. He is the primary investigator on those requests for variances. They take a tremendous amount of work contacting residents, contacting businesses, in many cases contacting major hotel and motel locations within the city, and dealing with the variety of input from those individuals to formulate a recommendation to me to consider whether we shall issue or not issue one of the noise variances for construction to occur. He does his job in a very diligent way, represents the best of the Los Angeles Police Department and of the Police Commission as he carries out that job. It's a very complicated and technical job, and most folks don't know that we have that type of responsibility within the department, but we do. And he does it with, again, a great degree of professionalism, a great degree of class, and he cares about the community residents. He'd make sure that the community is not overly impacted by the noise. His first concern is for the community. It is not for the individuals that want the noise variance. He balances those things, and those are the skills that he brings, is balance, good sense of good judgment, and caring about the community. So on behalf of his colleagues, many who are aligned around the room, and myself, I'd like to certainly congratulate him on being our Employee of the Month, and would ask the Commission to go down and take a picture with Enrique and present him a certificate.
Come up here. We take a picture down here. I want him to come up here for 1 second.
Okay.
Have a seat.
You want to put your feet up?
Enrique, just don't fire me. You can do anything else.
Thank you very much.
There you go.
Don't do him any favors.
Yeah, that's some free time.
Hey, what about those guys?
Oh, that's your picture.
Okay, 1, 2, and 3. One more time. He doesn't remember me, but we have 5 kids and we had 5 dogs, so I think we had a few noise issues in the old days.
Thank you.
Okay, again, 1, 2, and 3. One more time. Oh, I'm sorry. Nice. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Congratulations.
Okay, we are now on item number 7, which is the consent agenda items. These items are considered to be routine and non-controversial, upon which the board is provided with adequate information for approval without inquiry or discussion. Would a commissioner wish to pull an item for discussion?
I just point of information on number A, Luskin School of Public Affairs. I'm a member of their board of counselors. The city attorneys advised me I don't need to recuse myself from the vote, but just out of wanted to say, let everybody know. Anybody else want to pull anything?
Move approval of items 7A through F.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are now on item number 8, regular agenda items. Would a commissioner wish to pull any item for discussion?
Mr. President, I would like to hold as special items 8A and 8B.
Great. Anything else? Okay.
Move approval of items 8C through 8F.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
8A.
We'll begin with the Inspector General's report dated October 1st, 2013, relative to the post-refresher training audit. That's item 8A.
Thank you, Commissioners. From my office, at the table is Assistant Inspector General Kevin Rogan. As the Commission is aware, my office conducts audits from time to time on different areas within the department. One of the areas that we focused in that resulted in this report were the perishable skills and the refresher training that the department delivers to its officers to ensure that these perishable skills stay current and that department staff have all the necessary training to perform their jobs to the highest standards. We looked into some of the training that's required by POST, which is a Commission on Police Officer Standards and Training, and identified certain categories where refresher training was required. Some of the categories, as listed in the report, involve arrest and control, driving, tactical firearms, tactical or interpersonal communications, and then we also focused in on first aid and CPR. Our audit tested the available officers, the pool of officers, which we had at roughly 3,700 officers, and we took a sample of that to determine what areas the department was actually performing standard on the training and areas that they could improve on. And all but one category, the department had received high marks from us, a high compliance rate in the low to high 90s. There was one area specifically involving first aid and CPR where we identified a concern on the department's training and revisiting that issue with officers in the field. We met with the department and they immediately put into place systems to remedy that situation, and based upon their plan of attack for that particular issue and getting that training out to the officers, we have no recommendations.
Good morning. I'm Commander Bill Murphy. I'm the Assistant Commanding Officer of Personnel and Training Bureau, and with me is Dr. Luann Pinnell from Police Training and Education. Real quickly, it is actually been on the news that we're at zero compliance, if you've heard that on KNX today, but technically as per the Inspector General in the audit, we're really not at zero. We have last 3 years about 626 recruits that have graduated that are in current compliance. We have about 275 that went through the Metro course, which is in compliance. We have officers in Training Division and Jail Division that put us into compliance, but make no mistake, we are woefully out in our patrol forces. So let me quickly go over the plan that we're going to do, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them for you. We are currently training 60 of our area training coordinators and their staff in CPR first aid training. We have worked with the sheriffs. The sheriffs have a 40-hour course that gets officers and supervisors into compliance to do this training. So 30 have gone through that already. 30 more will go on October 21st. In addition to that, we have about 66 or so officers, detectives that are EMT qualified, so they'll be our backup. They could go in and teach this. They're actually well qualified for that. We're going to use the POST online training. Currently, you can get online in a POST portal and spend about 5 or 6 hours, and that would be the refresher training that you would need. In addition to that, we will go ahead and do a practical application. So those area training coordinators will go ahead after they take the online course, will come in and do a practical application. The sheriffs, when you go through their train the trainer course, they have a checklist that they prepare all of the people that go through that course to be able to do in the practical application. So they just go down the checklist. That qualifies for the application, and that will get all of the officers that will go through that qualified. We do have a grant. One of the reasons why we haven't done this in the past is it's very, very expensive training. We have a $100,000 grant that we're going through the Police Foundation to try to get approval for. That grant is going to purchase mannequins. It's very expensive to do this. Like I said, the mannequin set is an adult, kid, and an infant, a child and an infant, and it's roughly like $500 a set. We'll need dozens of those sets. So we're hoping to get a response from the Police Foundation within 2 weeks. Even if we do not get approval for that, I have enough money that we've set aside in the revolving training fund that will buy all the equipment that we need to make this training happen. In addition to the Police Foundation, we have an additional $350,000 grant to update our trauma kits. About 15 years ago, in 1998, the Police Foundation approved trauma kits for all of the officers out there. We want to update that trauma kit and actually add different types of devices that are more current, so we're waiting on that. We also have a training schedule we'll roll out in January. After we get all the equipment that we need, after we get those 60 instructors qualified, January we will roll this training program out. We have picked one division per bureau that will go through the training, as well as a traffic division. And we got to do that because we can't overwhelm the post online system. We could not in January say, okay, all 6,000 or so officers go out there and get onto their system. The bandwidth wouldn't be there. So we're going to spread it out over 18 months. We should get all of the officers into compliance by that time. We're very confident of that. And after that, we'll build it into our 3-year training cycle. So we shouldn't be in this position anymore in the future. And we'll correct this mistake, and we'll get back up in compliance.
Questions? I have two.
Yep.
I took the Red Cross CPR training class, and also they had an infant class, even though the mannequins are, it's a completely different training class because it's different issues with infants. So you're going to be able to go through both?
Yes, they'll be qualified to do adults, children, and infants when they go through this.
And the Red Cross, as far as the Red Cross training, is it pretty much the same training that you'll be getting?
It's very similar to it. In fact, we looked at different methods. Red Cross was one. American Heart Association is also another. There's costs involved. If we were to hire those, it's significant cost involved in that. So this is the fastest, most efficient way for our officers to get the training. It's online. It's decentralized, so the officers would not be pulled out of their stations. They could do the training online at the station. They'll get the practical application at the station, so that reduces the time out of the field, which is also a good thing for us.
Good.
If I might, Mr. President, I'm sure my colleagues and others share the disappointment in the results of the audit. I appreciate your acknowledgement of that. And in particular, I just wanted to point out the department's response has been quite good. The response that we see in the appendix makes it clear, along with your report, that the changes are happening and will happen as quickly as they can. And I want to thank you for that, and look forward to the follow-up when we hear that you are in full compliance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one public comment card on this item. We have Ted Hayes. Ted Hayes.
Sorry for the delay. You mentioned something about grants. It's not a grant, but you're going to be surprised. I didn't have it with me. I didn't expect this item to be up in any conversation about grants. But you know how many hours persons usually, by law, stay in our jails? 96. And in that period of time, they can do only a few things. One of those things is make phone calls. And a phone call is a collect call. In other words, it goes to the loved one, to the attorney, whomever. The amount of money the LAPD gets is incredible from those phone calls. I've got the material. It was given out about a month before you arrived. The amount of money they get from phone calls. The same thing is true with prisons. Prisons have an extraordinary amount of money they collect by inmate phone calls. Their collect calls also. But none of that money is ever used for the purpose it's collected for. It's an inmate fund. It's supposed to be for things for the inmates in the jail. Television, radios, newspapers, whatever. But that's not what it's used for. I get placed in solitary confinement every time I go to jail. And that's a disciplinary action. That's because you're a bad person. But my problem is I can't eat the food because I have no teeth, no saliva. I have to have it blended. They don't have a $10, $15, $20 blender, so they can't feed me. So I sit there in solitary confinement without any food. So I'm going to let you know what they take from us prisoners while we're in jail making phone calls, and don't spend it on something important. Lots of old folks go to jail without teeth, and they can't eat burritos. Thank you.
There are no other public comment cards. You can take a motion now.
approve the item.
Move approval of item 8A.
Second. Thank you, Sandra. All those in favor?
Aye.
8B.
8B is the department's report dated October 4th, 2013, relative to the approval of Raytheon contract for digital in-car video system.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Maggie Goodrich. I'm the CIO and Commanding Officer of Information Technology Bureau. I have with me Sergeant Dan Gomez, who heads my Tactical Technology section. The item you have before you has been awaited for quite a while here. It's finally the expansion of our in-car video program. Back in 2010, we completed the implementation of in-car video deployment in all of the vehicles in Operations South Bureau. It was about 300 vehicles. And after that, ran successfully for about a year. We went back out to RFP. Police Commission last year approved the selection of Raytheon as the vendor for this next phase, which will be a rollout in Operations Central Bureau and about 381 vehicles there. And so that is the contract that you have before you. It is a 5-year agreement. While we expect the implementation to take about 12 months, what's also included here is 5 years of maintenance on the system. Total system, all components, all covered under the 5-year maintenance agreement. Also includes some on-site support for the first 6 months after we complete the rollout to make sure that everything runs smoothly. And the other thing I should point out is that the subcontractor under this contract is the same subcontractor that was involved in the South Bureau rollout, and that's Coban. And so this is essentially the latest version of the Coban system, the camera, back office, all of that. So what that means is we'll have one unified solution. Whether you work South Bureau or Central Bureau, you'll be interacting with the same system. So there's no retraining. We have no compatibility issues. It all works together seamlessly. And with that, I'm here to answer any questions and request approval to move forward. And
Dan, any comments?
No, I think Ms. Goodrich hit all the points. This is something that really has taken a lot of people working together to get it to this point. So we're looking forward to moving forward with the approval from the Commission.
Mr. President, I just have two comments. One, I thank you for the progress that you've made on this, bringing it to us. I know it's extremely complicated, and I appreciate that. The second won't surprise you, which is to emphasize the continuing urgency in moving forward on this. I note the delays that seem inherent in the process. The board approved the release of the request for proposals on August 23rd of 2011, more than 2 years ago. There was a 7-month delay at the City Council from May of 2012 until December of 2012, while the City Council debated approving the selection of Raytheon and authorizing the department to enter into contract negotiations. And not that I have any ability to accomplish anything, but I encourage the City Council not to delay further, and I encourage the department to discourage the City Council from delaying further. And then I noticed that even once approved, there will be roughly a 12-month process of execution of the contract. So this is a long process. As I said, I appreciate the progress you've made, but I encourage you strongly to keep your foot hard on the accelerator and move this forward as quickly as you can, because it's extremely important. Thank you.
so I appreciate your urging. I completely agree. I've already contacted the CAO to let them know this is on its way so that they can prepare their report to go to City Council. And I've also contacted Council to let them know it's on its way. So hopefully, I've started the urging before they even have this in their hand.
Thank you. And I offer on behalf of my colleagues to the department and to you, if the department has a sense that we can be helpful across the street in continuing this forward movement, please let us know.
I appreciate it.
Commissioner?
Good morning. I have two questions. One is, so this will take care of the
Central.
South Bureau and Central Bureau.
Halfway home.
Is there a projected completion for when the West Bureau and the Valley Bureaus will be?
So that will be subject to available funding. It's estimated that to complete Valley Bureau and West Bureau, we would need approximately an additional $20 million to do that. So the plan is
Look at me, man.
fundraising, sir. The plan is to move forward as quickly as possible with Central Bureau, and as we're coming to a close on that, to hopefully be able to seek a contract amendment to continue on with the rollout in the other two bureaus. But again, that'll be contingent on funding. So,
And I'm sorry, go ahead with your second question.
Yeah. My second question is I may have this wrong, but the present equipment we have was installed in 2010?
correct.
And presumably this equipment would be installed in 2014?
Correct.
And you're saying the compatibility will be seamless. Is any of this equipment upgraded, or is it?
Yes, so this is the latest and greatest from Coban. It is their latest version that they've proposed. It's slightly different from what we implemented, obviously, in 2010. But, for example, the back office system that you use to retrieve and review the video, we're upgrading that at South Bureau also, so everybody will be on the same platform.
Okay, and then the technology, the in-field technology, is essentially the same?
You want to talk about the camera?
Yeah, essentially it is the same. So there's a few minor differences. So the new equipment that's going into the cars has a faster antenna. It's kind of like when you buy an older laptop versus a newer laptop. The newer ones always seem to run a little faster. Same here, but the two still work together. You could still put a hard drive in either computer. It's still going to work. Same thing with this the system. So the ones at South Bureau still absolutely functional. The new ones are just going to be a little bit faster.
Was in the new system, is the range of view improved over the present range of view, which is almost a curved sort of fisheye kind of view? It's not what I would characterize as a really clear door-to-door view.
So the camera that's in the rear seat of the vehicle is a fisheye. Just because of the amount of space and where we have to place the camera, it's really the only way to be able to get the majority of that back seat, since that's what we're focusing on. Those remain exactly the same. The system uses the same lens, same type of optics. In the front of the vehicle, the cameras are essentially the same. The quality of the cameras today for the front of the vehicle are slightly better. However, the field of view is going to still remain the same. Those do not have a fisheye lens. They have what you see is what you get. There's no distortion to that front camera.
And I'm sorry, this is like one more question. So the night perspective. So in the new system, is the night perspective going to have a better resolution than the present 2010 version?
Slightly, but essentially to the human eye, they'll look almost exactly the same.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, but I don't have any colds or anything. I congratulate you on this, on making this step. I think that it's important to clarify here that the on-body cameras are complementary in usage. A lot of crime doesn't happen in the car, and a lot of crime doesn't happen within the visibility of the car, and that the on-body cameras will serve to complement these, and I hope that this rollout continues faster and with less pain for both of you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
I'd like to move approval of item number 8. Is this 8B?
Yes.
Do we have a second? Rob, all those in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We are now at the item number 9, public comment. We have 10 comment cards. We'll begin with General Dogan, Deborah Burton, and Steve Diaz.
And the time limit on these are 2 minutes, .00. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is General Dogon, and I'm here with other members of the Los Angeles Community Action Network, better known as LA CAN. LA CAN is a resident-led membership organization that's been working in Skid Row since 1999. We work to promote and defend human and civil rights in downtown and South LA, which includes advocating for extreme low-income housing. In Skid Row specifically, we address public safety issues to ensure our community is safe and productive for everyone, which is why we are here today. We have been coming to this commission requesting oversight and intervention consistently since the launch of the Safer Cities Initiative in 2006. Safer Cities, or SCI, is an initiative created by the former Mayor Viragosa and former Chief William Bratton. For 7 years now, up to 110 extra officers have been assigned to Skid Row to target poor and homeless and mostly black residents in an effort to move us out of downtown through harassment, jail, or both. SCI is intended to help gentrify downtown. It focuses only on poor and homeless Skid Row residents and mostly on very minor violations that aren't enforced elsewhere in downtown. We wanted to come this morning and introduce ourselves to you new commissioners like we did the former commissioners concerning some very important issues related to safer cities. We also want you to act as quickly as new commissioners to intervene in this expensive, ineffective, and racist initiative. Other LA CAN members will follow with additional details, but we urge you to use your authority as commissioners to intervene in ongoing massive civil rights violations. Thank you for your time, and I have some more information and details with some pamphlets for each one of the 5 commissioners. Could you please give me?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Deborah Burton.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Deborah Burton. I'm a longtime resident of Skid Row and a member of LA CAN. I'd like to talk to you about some of the things 7 years of SCI policing has done to our community. First, we was promised that the purpose of SCI was to focus on outside criminal elements. Yet poor and homeless residents have been arrested over and over again for crimes like sitting on the sidewalk. Second, we were promised community enhancement and increased services come along with the extra officers. Yet we're seeing a reduction in services, periodical increases of officers. That means we can't get trash collection, housing, bathroom, and other urgent needs met for our community. But we live in an area that feels occupied. I can't walk 4 blocks home from work without continual presence of officers. I'm tired of seeing neighbors up against the wall and in handcuffs all the time for no reason. Our community is relatively safe. Third, SCI policing increased citation to 48 to 69 times the rate of the rest of the city. While citation rates have decreased some, this remains a huge problem. Poor people are ticketed for sitting in chairs on Main Street, while wealthier residents sit in unpermitted benches and tables without any harassment from the police. This discriminatory ticketing must stop. Fourth, use of force in Central Division is very high. Lieutenant Kaiser admits this problem. We have had at least one unjustified shooting of a black man that came out of the policy and dozens of unreported stunts of abuse and violence against residents, some of the worst against women. Last, organizers and residents who speak out against SCI are targeted. We ask that these and other reasons.
Maybe you can pass the rest of your speech to someone else so we can hear the rest of it. But I really want to keep to the timeline.
Thank you.
It's very interesting. Thank you.
Steve Diaz.
Make sure I get here right on time. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Steve Diaz, and I am with the Los Angeles Community Action Network. Just like other people have spoken, we want to bring to you the urgent need for your urgent attention, and the urgent need for you to look into the Skid Row Safer Cities Initiative, which just entered its 8th year of operation. SCI was intended to last only 6 months, yet downtown still faces the largest concentration of officers in the city and likely the country. Former commissioners have taken some action to investigate the Safer Cities initiative, but no intervention has been initiated. We hope you new commissioners will change this dynamic. For example, after the first 2 years of the Safer Cities initiative, the previous commissioners held a specific public hearing on this initiative. Even though the large majority of the speakers expressed their concern or opposition, the commissioners stated that they would initiate follow-up. Nothing ever happened. In early 2011, another public hearing was held, and a UCLA researcher presented evidence of the inefficientness of SEI and the civil and human rights violations. Commissioners still did not act. Soon afterwards, LACAN members submitted 3 basic recommendations that would alleviate some of the negative impacts of SEI. Excuse me, though we still believe it should end. Although the Commission agreed with those recommendations, none were fully implemented. We're here this morning hoping to open a dialogue with each one of you about fair and just policing in Skid Row and ending SEI. Among other things, we would like for you to follow up, on your immediate predecessor's commitments to holding a town hall meeting in Skid Row on the Safer Cities policing. Chief Beck refused to come to Skid Row to the Skid Row community when we were planning with Mr. Chifank and the past commissioners. We hope you will be willing to come into the most police community in the city and hear about those impacts. Thank you.
The next 4 speakers are Joe Thomas, James Porter, Adam Rice, and Tut Hayes.
Good morning. My name is Joseph Thomas. I'm a downtown resident. I'm a proud member of LACAN, and I'm also in the category of being homeless. You being new to me as I to you, my quest this morning is because of the racial profiling of black and brown citizens. The mental individuals, the disabled individuals, the veterans such as I, black or brown, or whatever your color is in between that you categorize that, we are the victims of that. I feel to listen is to be heard. To be heard is to be understood. SCI, number 1 example. Being black, over the age of 60, and homeless with a very little finance does not merit a citation of resting or sitting down, not blocking a public way, or just being in the immediate area, or kicking a person not knowing the condition of this person, whether he's mental, whether he's disabled. You are not medical technicians. A person... To protect and to serve, that's what you say. With the exclusion of people of color, you walk never to be subject to handcuff by a citation. In your neighborhood, if they put you out your car, would they put you up against the wall? Would they frisk you? Would they put handcuffs on you just for a mere citation? I think not. But that's what they do down here. As a new commission, I expect you to have some kind of interest because your prior commissions did not. And at the same time, at least play the role, play the part. As a resident of this community, I expect you to give us a new form and tell us what you want to do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. James Porter.
Good morning, Commissioner. I see you are my new neighbors. Let me introduce myself so you can know me better. My name is James Porter, a downtown resident for about 30 years, and a member of LACAN. I do not fear LAPD. Why? Because I am not a criminal. I do not hate LAPD, but I don't trust them. I stand here before you on behalf of my civil rights and human rights, that it will not be violated by LAPD. I also stand here before you to ask you to listen to and investigate our concerns and problems with policing. Under the city charter, the Board of Police Commission is the head of the police department. The board sets an overall policy while serving as the citizen voice in police affairs. The Commissioner's concerns are reflected of the community at large. We all here for the same cause, to make the community a better place to live in. How are we going to do that? By building relationship within the community. So I ask you, Board of Commissioners, have a forum in our community so you can get to know us better. We've been asking the police. He said he'd been doing community service, but he hasn't done it in our community. How are we going to move forward if we don't know what's going on in the community? I challenge you and everybody at the commission to come to our community to learn what we're all about. Thank you.
Adam Rice.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Adam Rice, and I'm a member of LA CAN. Now, for 7 years, Safer Cities policing in Skid Row has now resulted in tens of thousands of arrests and citations. And it is, of course, the longest standing concentration of officers in this city, if not the country. Yet Chief Beck has yet to come to Central City East to speak to us, to speak to the community that has the largest concentration of his officers there on a daily basis. Now, others have talked to you about the impacts of SCI, and we submitted a packet for your review, so I'm not going to go over that. What we'd really like to talk about today is the accountability of the chief to the communities. You know, Chief Beck has continued Bratton's failed experiment of broken windows policing in Skid Row. Last year, the police opened fire on 5th and Wall Street, shot a senior citizen in the head, then 6 more times when he lay on the ground, and then put him in handcuffs in front of the entire community. Now, after that, this commission and Chief Beck agreed to come and hold a town hall as they had done after the USC police violence and have done many times in the Muslim community, in our community. But come down to it, the insistence of Chief Beck was that this town hall be held here. That this town hall be held here, in this police building, after the police opened fire on the community. This is not right. Look, Skid Row residents have a right to be treated equally and fairly and have access to transparent and accountable police forces and a police commission. We have the right for SCI to be fully evaluated, and if justified, which we believe it will be, needs to be ended. 7 years is far too long, and we look forward to working with the new commissioners to make our city a better place.
Thank you, sir.
Ted Hayes.
Commissioner was inquiring about the angle of view of a camera. I don't know whether they still do it or not, but usually commissioners are afforded an opportunity to get inside view of the police department, and they can actually see what the camera sees if they want to take the time out to have it introduced to them. But with Central Division, it's very simple for you to understand what's happening with Skid Row. Central Division right down there on 6th Street. They have 2 restrooms, male, female, and 2 water fountains, one for the little kids and one for the adults. Refrigerated. The water fountains haven't worked for 3 years. The restroom has been closed for 3 years. Despite my going to general services, they say, we have nothing to do with it. The police don't want these homeless people coming into the police station to get a cold drink of water or relieve themselves. So I'll tell you what you can find right now, this hour. Go to Central Division, you'll find human feces all around the station. People take their dumps. They eliminate right there at the station. But the reason the cops can't tolerate homeless people coming into their station and a stream of people getting cold water and eliminating themselves is beyond my belief, because officer encounter aspects of our society no one else has to endure, no one else has to assure. I think they become callous at some point, indifferent at some point, and simply do their jobs. But you can't get cold water at the station, and I think you should ask the commanders the commanding officer, why is that? Because it's got nothing to do with cleaning up the restrooms. Human Services will do that. They told me over and over again, if it's got a high impact of service needs, we will provide it. But the police will deny it. They will interfere. They will stop it. That's all you need to know.
The next speakers are Jabril Mohammed, Yvonne Michelle Autry, Ariana Alvarez, and Hamid Khan.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's Jabril Mohammed for Bismillah, the Justice Movement. I just want to give the Commission an update in regards to the victim of violent crime, which I was a victim of May 9th of this year. This is application number A13-4317491. It's regarding the California Victims Compensation Program. Now, number of reports have been filed. A number of complaints have been filed with the Inspector General, Internal Affairs. I've gotten a couple of correspondence from the Commission itself, as well as the Inspector General's office. However, as of a couple of days ago, I received in the mail from the victim of Victims Compensation Program that the factors that may be considered are the victim or derivative victim intentionally created, entered, or stayed in a situation or environment in which it was reasonably foreseeable that he or she would be victimized. Now, because the application was not approved, we will not make payment. They're alleging that because of a prior conduct on the part of the victim, that he has no compensation coming. This was a perjured statement on the part of the people involved, and with the investigation, it will be proven otherwise. I'm requesting and beseeching the Commission to investigate this complaint, as well as report number 131311088.
Thank you, sir.
Yvonne Michelle Autry.
Good morning. Thank you for an opportunity to address the commissioners. I've been a resident of downtown for 10 years, and as a member of LA Ken, what I consider the indigenous people prior to the regentrification of this community, my community, what I've seen has been horrible. Personally, I've been harassed. I'm continually profiled by police and bids following me, harassing me for no reason. Illegal entries of my room continue, spraying, lies, character assassinations, provocateurs, witch hunts, illegal covert civilian experiments. I'm not saying that the police commission or paramilitary or the military is responsible for all of this, but I do believe under the SAR, or suspicious activity reports, see something, say something, explores, all this designed to further divide and separate the constituency as you actually seek to remove us in favor of the constituency that is more of that are spending more, which is a boon to the economy downtown. Also, I think that it's horrible in light of the community who has shown up repeatedly. I think it's horrible that the chief of police, who is absent today, will not address us directly. I think it shows cowardice and a lack of concern for his constituency. Eric Garcetti accepted our invitation. He's mayor today. He addressed the most indigent people in the James Wood Center prior to his election, and we believe that's one reason why he was elected. We appreciate his being receptive and also considering and actually speaking directly with us. I would actually like to state at this time that I believe as a result of SCI's continual profiling in an effort to silence those of us who are still vocal. Again, General Jeffrey Page has been falsely accused of illegally trafficking, dealing drugs. We know that we have been falsely accused for other offenses, and I demand that these false charges are immediately dropped. Thank you.
Ariana Alvarez. I'm sorry, Alcaraz.
Yeah. Hello. Hey. So I'm coming to you today as a female who happens to be out sometimes late at night waiting for the bus. And also I came across this article that was on a website that dedicates itself to tourism in Koreatown. And recently it came out with an article about that straight up says, do not come here. There is a gang, there's a violent gang and it's loose on the streets. Do not come here. Do not come here. And they were talking about the LAPD, and they were talking about a specific instance that happened a few months ago. And out of 3 people, it was 2 males and a female. 2 male officers decided to arrest the female for public intoxication for crossing the street. Her night ended with her face bruised, her nose broken, blood all over her face, and her clothes torn. Her bra strap was torn. And your officers said that she fell out of a moving vehicle, that she fell out of the back of the car. And I know that I've been in a cop car, and I know that that's not possible, especially if you're handcuffed. You don't fall out of a moving vehicle. So, you know, like as a woman, as a young woman who is out here, and like I have to be worried about the scary guy in a bush that's going to hop out and attack me, but now I have to be afraid of your male officers with guns and in cars that I can't like defend myself because they're police officers. And another thing I want to bring up too is I had a friend who was recently assaulted by her boyfriend, and it was caught on security tapes. It was caught on camera. Your officers saw the video and still proceeded to ask her if she had been drinking, as if to delegitimize her story. They did such a terrible investigation that they didn't even get her address, and she had to ask them more than once to file charges against him. So she had to work in order for the police to file charges against the guy who were with evidence that he had beat on her. So I just want to say that the violence against women by your male officers needs to stop. And I know you talk about CPR training. I think it's time that, and it's nice to see women in the commission, I think it's time to train your male officers, not just your women officers, but your male officers on how to handle arresting females.
And the final comment card is Mr. Hamid Khan.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Hamid Khan with the Los Angeles Community Action Network and the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition. As most of you get used to your responsibilities as custodians of public trust, we also look forward to bring to your attention LAPD policies that not only break down trust, but are anchored in spreading fear and suspicion in our communities. LAPD has a long history of deception and misrepresentation, and although there's been much talk about the new LAPD, policies such as the Suspicious Activity Reporting Program criminalize innocent behavior, promote racial profiling, are based on vague and meaningless standards, and a waste of precious public resources. Previous speakers have highlighted the Safer Cities Initiative, a policy whose stated mission 7 years ago was the welfare of the most vulnerable amongst us, but has now become a policy of social control and, quite frankly, a policy of racial and ethnic cleansing. Similarly, Suspicious Activity Reporting Program, Special Order 1, and iWatch See Something, Say Something programs are policies of social control that give LAPD unprecedented and unchecked power. Imagine you're out there with your loved ones and enjoying a moment, and next thing your act of taking a simple photograph or videotaping can now land you in LAPD databases with formal investigations launched against you. Not only that, you could potentially land in databases in fusion centers, which can then give access to over 18,000 law enforcement agencies into your private lives. And now imagine that you're not even allowed to find out that through FOIA or a Public Records Act that an investigation has been launched against you. This is not just rhetoric. It is backed by the Inspector General's audit, a U.S. Senate subcommittee audit, report by the National Academy of Sciences, and our own Public Records Act request and personal stories. So we look forward to your leadership in ensuring that as you personally and collectively evolve in your responsibilities, you don't check your moral, ethical, and professional compass at the door. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That is the final card. We will now go to item number 10, closed session items. The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss items number 10A, 1 and 2 in accordance with Government Code 54957. Closed session item number 10A1 was discussed and the chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. In closed session item number 10A2 was discussed and the chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. Mr. President, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
You can't take this. So moved.
All in favor?
Oh, yes, there is, by Paula. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
LA City View Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
Welcome to Connie Martinson Talks Books. June 14th, 1940, the Germans marched into Paris, took down the French flag, and put up the German swastika flag. Well, as a result, the world would never be the same for my guest, Robert Clary, and his sister, Nicole Holland. This is their story. Robert's book is an autobiography from the Holocaust to Hogan's Heroes, and Nicole's is written by her daughter, Nicole Holland, one of the lucky ones. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. You know I am both a fan and the fact that I am very touched by your sister's book.
It's a very good book. As a matter of fact, and I know her life quite well, but when I read it, I was very emotional about it.
Yeah.
There were two moments when I came back from the concentration camp, and she...
Buchenwald.
Huh?
You were at Buchenwald.
Yeah, I was liberated there.
Yeah.
And when I came back to Paris, I thought I will find absolutely nobody alive, because out of 13 of my immediate family who were deported,
yeah.
I'm unfortunately the only one who came back. And the first person, when I arrived in a hotel in Paris, I heard one woman screaming, "Robert!" Yeah. And I turn around and I see my sister. And right now,
I got
I'm getting emotional while only talking about it, because we just